Hey, so today, what I got for y'all, we're going to make my week 7 predictions. Tomorrow, Thursday Night Football, we got the Steelers and the Bengals. This is a weird one. Division games are always weird, and the Bengals just played probably their best game in a minute. My pick, and I hate saying it, but I'm going to say Bengals cover, but Steelers win. I just think, at home, I just like the Steelers are 4-1. They're way too lucky this year. I think you know the Bengals offense looked much better. Chase Brown looked even a little bit better than most of the season. So yeah, that's my pick for this one. Moving on, another London game, the Rams at Jags. I believe Puka's gonna miss this one. So Devontae Adams is the one. This is a great matchup for him. He torched them last year as well. I'm going to say Jaguars +3. Now, I don't want to take too many underdogs, and I do think the Jags win because I think the Jags are a better team. I just think the Rams are a little lucky. Their defense, the secondary is a little overrated. They won that game against the Colts for one reason, right? Mitchell dropped the ball at the 1 yard line. So I don't really love how they played last week. They had that 49ers game. They didn't play that well either. So yeah, I think the Jaguars win that one. So, you know, if they had, built Brian Callahan in there still, I would say the Pats. Um, but since 2020, you know, teams that fire their coach are 9-2 against. I think it's 9-2. Yeah, 9-2 against the spread the week after. Since 2020, like I said. I'm saying Titans +7. I don't like it. I don't like saying it, but historically, that's just how it's going to be. Will the Pats win? Probably, and they should because they're the better team. They're the playoff team. They're in the first for the AFC East. But I do think the Titans cover on this one under Mike McCoy. This this is a rough one here. The Raiders are really bad right now. Bauer's still out. I don't think Myers is going to play. The Chiefs' run defense is decent. They did a good job against Gibbs and Monty this past week. There are two guys that usually combine for like 120, and they combine for I want to say 80, 90 ish. I'm gonna say the Chiefs. I'm not gonna I'm not gonna overthink this one. Chiefs are a much better team. They're a playoff team. Unfortunately, for Rice is back. Everything just is in their favor in this one. Another weird one here. The Eagles, they're coming off 2 losses. The Vikings might have JJ back. I don't think so. But my pick, I think the Eagles get back on track here. I do. And it's like, I know, last week against the Giants they struggled. But, this is a good chance for them to get back on track. It's Carson Wentz. It's not if it was JJ, I might say the Vikings. But with Carson in there, I just don't think, I think the Eagles defense might just eat them up. I know they struggle off the edge this year, but they're going to force him to throw it. And I just think the Eagles are the better team overall. This is I now here, like Jettis probably scores in this one. Jettis or Addison definitely scores though. The Panthers, I mean, I have to say Carolina. If the Jets win, all props to them. There's no world where I could say anything different here. The Jets are 0-6. Their best player's injured. They're coming off the London game where they played terribly. I think this is a game where we could see Tyrod come in for Fields if he's playing that bad again. So, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. Coker's back, which is huge for Carolina's pass game. Chuba Hubbard's going to be back, which is also big for their pass game and the run game, of course. I'm not gonna overthink that one. It's probably Carolina. Another weird one. The Browns and Dolphins. I mean, I want to, like keep saying Miami, but they're just so bad, man. Like, last week they literally missed 2 tackles on Herbert that led to points. So I'm gonna say Cleveland. I'm gonna say Gabriel gets his first win. Their defense is elite, and the Dolphins' defense is probably bottom 3. So yeah, we're gonna say the Browns. The run game with Judkins, Sampson, that'll work. I know Njoku's out, but I feel like at home they'll be able to get this one done. Miami doesn't have a lot going for them defensively and offensively. Not much more besides A-Chain, Waddle, and Waller. Now here, the Bears coming off a Monday night win, short week, short rest for them, and the Saints are coming off a weird game. So where they had chances to win against the Pats, but they just could not get it done. I'm gonna, the Bears' run defense is bad. DJ Moore might miss this one. I'm gonna say the Saints because they've done it all year. They've done better than I expected. I thought the Saints might go 0-17 genuinely, and they look like a team that's gonna win 4, 5, 6 games. I think this is a week where they could sneak it. Are the Bears going to win? Probably. But 4.5 seems a little high, just like, last week against, it was Miami versus the Chargers. It's just like playing the matchup. DJ Moore's a big, big loss if he's out. He didn't practice today, I know that. So, he had a groin injury from Monday night. So, I'm going to say Saints. I'm not going to overthink it any more than that. Now here, I know the public is on the Giants here. And I don't blame them. Because Denver played like shit for most of that game last week. Disappointingly. And the Giants, they got the 2 rookies, even 3 with Abdul Carter. But, Broncos are, having a ceremony for my GOAT, Demaryius Thomas. I feel like that's going to spark them. I feel like the offense is going to get moving early. The Giants' run defense is still one of the worst groups in the league. So I'm going to say Broncos -7. I think Broncos probably win this game by 2 touchdowns. So now the Colts and Chargers, the best team in the NFL, is not favored. I hate to say it because it's just like last week where I said, it was Lions Chiefs. Most people are going to take the Colts. And I hate saying it because as a Broncos fan, but it's Chargers money line. I think the Colts got pretty lucky last week. Their defense looked worse, their offense looked worse besides Taylor. The Chargers are a much better defensive group with Jesse Minter. And at home, I think this is a Chargers win. Herbert's got to get back on track, and I feel like this is a good game. Good game to do it some more. Packers Cardinals. Now, the Packers might be the most overrated team in football. I'm not gonna lie. And the Cardinals probably without Marvin Harrison Jr. And they're also probably without Kyler Murray again. And obviously Connor's hurt and Benson's hurt. And it's only 6.5 away, at home. I'm going to say the Cardinals, man. I like how they played. Their defense is a better unit. I don't think the Packers are that good. I just don't see their offense moving well enough, bro. Like, Jacobs is going to do, he's going to get his. I guarantee it. And the Packers, again, they probably win this game, but I think, the Cardinals are a good shout to probably make this a close game like they did against the Colts. And I was wrong about the Colts game. So, Washington, Dallas. Now, Washington's off a loss, of course. But, you know, Dallas's defense looks really, really bad. And CeeDee Lamb's probably back. And it's like, every sign looks, it's like, why not the Cowboys, right? And, I so badly, as a Dak, you know, owner in fantasy, oh, Cowboys win. No, I don't think so. I think this is a good game for the Commanders. They're a better coach team. Their defense is better. Their offense is good still. Terry might be back. This is still an elite matchup for the whole offense itself, even more specifically the run or the run game for Krusty Merritt. I just don't think Dallas' defense can do enough. If they do, then they'll win like they did, and they made that game close against Green Bay, where their defense just did enough, but they still gave up 40 points. So, but this is the highest total of the week, so it should be a shootout. And of course, Dallas is on, game of the week as always. Falcons, 49ers. Falcons off a big win against the Bills. It's the 49ers. Yeah, without a doubt. I guarantee most of the public's on the Falcons. It seems like a game, they could sneak. But the 49ers as a group look good. They had that game against the Bucks where they easily could have won, in my opinion. And they kept selling. That goes on Mac Jones. I don't think Purdy's going to be back. I don't think Pearsall's going to be back. Kittle is a huge get in this one. Now, this game most likely goes under because you got two great defensive coordinators. You got Ulbrich and you got Saleh. And then the Bucks, moving on, Bucks Lions. The Bucks are 5-1. They have the same record as the Colts, tied for the best record. Guarantee most of the money's on the Bucks plus 5.5. But no Buka, no Bucky, no Mike Evans, no Godwin. I can't justify it. I would say the Lions cover that one as well. Back home, the Bucks defense isn't very good. I feel like that's a pretty easy one to pick. It might be that most people might like the Lions instead, but awful loss back home. I feel like they'll get back in it because they're still a top 4 team in my opinion. And the last game of the week, the Texans and Seahawks. Now, Seattle's off a big win against the Jags. They're probably the better team here, but the Texans have a way, way better defensive group. And I think they can win this game. I would say, the Texans plus 3 looks pretty nice. They probably have, points per game wise. They have the best team. They have a better defense, or not best team, but better defense in Denver. They're coming off a bye. They're well rested. They had a nice game against the Ravens where they dominated. I know the Ravens defense is worse in football, but this is a good game. This is still a playoff caliber team in my opinion. I think they take that one. And yeah, that's it. That's all I got.